Okay, hello and welcome to the JuliaHub demo series. I'm Jay Jagdish. I'm a part of the marketing team here at JuliaHub. This demo is meant to be an interactive session so that you can ask questions and provide feedback directly to the product team. Please take advantage of the session to ask questions and participate. A little bit about our speaker. Deep is the product director here at JuliaHub. With over a decade of startup experience, Deep has worked in product R&D, engineering, and open source program management. Please enter all your questions into the chat. Deep will answer them as they come when he finds time to pause. Over to you, Deep.
All right, thank you so much. So I see we still have a few people rolling in, so I'll kind of get started slowly. So again, really, we've just started these demo series, and my goal with these is to be a little informal. I really would love for you guys to ask questions for your participation. What I'm going to be doing today is showing you JuliaHub. We're going to go through some very basic flows and features and pages. And as I'm going through these, I will do my very best to sort of check the chat. So if you have questions, you kind of want to see something more in depth, please just mention that in the chat. I've got kind of the chat window up with me right here. So to talk through what I'm going to show you in the demo is I'm going to show you the Julia package registry. So this is the official registry of all the open source Julia packages. We've got over 8,000 open source packages in the Julia community, and many of those are, packages that do pretty advanced things. Like I'm sure some of you have seen the SciML work that the team has been doing. I'll then show you on JuliaHub how to, do some basic things like upload a data set. We'll launch the Julia IDE experience, which is in VS Code. I'll show you how to load a Julia package. Then I will show you the Pluto notebooks. And so Pluto is the Julia version of Jupyter notebooks. And basically it's an interactive doc where you can input Julia code and get outputs and plots and things like that. So you'll see that during the demo. Some of this stuff takes a little while to load, so I may show you some basic features around browsing around files on JuliaHub, and then I'm going to talk about upcoming features that we're working on. And again, if you have feedback, feel free to post that in the question box. All of these materials we will send over after this demo series, so you'll have access to anything that I talk about or link to today. All right. So I do want to mention that the JuliaHub experience that you're going to see today, is the one that's live and active on our site, JuliaHub.com. But we will be doing a giant, UX overhaul in the next quarter. So just kind of a teaser here, and look out for that. All right, so I'm going to just jump into the demos. So basically, you go to JuliaHub.com, and again, if you can't see my screen or anything glitches, just let me know in the chat. So I'm in JuliaHub.com. Actually, just to kind of get started at the top, obviously our website is JuliaHub.com. The first thing you're going to see is this landing page that sort of gives you some information about JuliaHub and some of the products that we are building for JuliaHub. We just relaunched our free tier. So basically you can get, a free version of JuliaHub. It's honestly extremely easy. You can just click on create a JuliaHub account. And then you click on, any of these identity providers to log in. So I usually use my JuliaHub Google account. And when you log in, you're going to see an applications area. Two of the applications I will go through in this demo is our Pluto notebook again, and Julia IDE. On the left is a list of running jobs. And so the jobs correspond to applications that you've launched or batch jobs. when you log in for the first time, you're not going to have any active jobs, but as you and your team continue to work in JuliaHub, you'll have this running list. One cool thing about this jobs list is you can actually go to the logs. You can, check the logs for all the log data. We also have some metrics which will be there once you're running a live app. Now, in terms of this demo, again, I think the first thing I want to show you is actually the packages page. So under Explore, you're going to go to Packages. And here you basically see every single open source package available in the Julia community. As I mentioned, we're getting close to about 9,000 packages. Anybody can contribute a package. You just go to Contribute, Register, and you can upload a package from a Git source. So it can be your local Git or GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket. So that is available to you. Now to sort of scroll through this packages area, you can search for a specific package like plots. You'll see, the description, any tags that came in from, say, GitHub, the stars, the latest version of the package, the license. When you actually click on the package, you'll get the README for the file. On the right, again, you'll have links to the documentation and the homepage and any contributors to the package. We also have a list of dependencies. So, what other Julia packages does this package depend on? And dependence is the other way around. What packages are using this particular package? All right, I'll do a quick pause, see if there's any questions in the chat. Not yet? Okay, cool. All right, so the next thing I want to show you is a little bit of the datasets area. So, a big way of working with our Julia packages is data, right? Data is a very big part of the Julia community, of the functionality that the Julia ecosystem provides. You're constantly manipulating data, loading data sets, transforming data, and usually plotting it or graphing it, getting some kind of output. So we have an area where you can just upload your data sets. It's pretty simple. Click Add a data set. You can give it a name. In this example, I'm going to have a data set that has all the movie titles from the Netflix database. So I give it a name. I can make this data set public to everybody available on JuliaHub, or I can keep it private to myself. If there's a license, I can add that license information, and then I can basically grab that data set from my desktop. So I'm going to grab that CSV file. And so JuliaHub will upload the data set. It'll appear right here, movie titles, and then it'll give you some metadata, some information about that data set. You can actually click on View, and you will see that data set loaded right into the browser. Some of these columns can be moved around and manipulated, but what's nice about this is now you can look at the data set without having to launch an application like Pluto or the IDE. All right. Looks like we've got some question. So we have a question around, are all the packages in JuliaHub ready to use without errors? So in general, there's some standardization to a Julia package, right? So when you create a new Julia package, there's a manifest file, and we do some basic tests behind the scenes when somebody contributes a package to JuliaHub. Now, beyond those standard tests, we aren't doing, like static code analysis. We don't know if a specific function works exactly the way it should. We just assume that the package authors are keeping these packages maintainable. So really the answer is, if there are errors in a Julia package on the open source, registry, you have to let the package author know. There's definitely going to be some packages, out of those close to 9,000 that are low quality. And of course, some of the dependencies for packages that aren't well maintained might be out of date. We don't currently check for things that extensive at this point. But a lot of the packages that we do usually talk about and show are well maintained. We know the package authors. So that's the best answer I can give you for now. Okay. All right, so I'm going to now move on to showing you the Julia IDE. So if you go to Explore, Compute Applications, you're going to see a list of applications. Oh, we have another question. So this next question is it possible to open our data to specific users of JuliaHub rather than the public? So when you get an instance of JuliaHub, if you are using the free version, the free tier, and you upload a data set and select public, it's available to anybody on that instance. So basically every free tier user is going to be able to see that public data set. Now, if you upgrade to a paid subscription, say the Teams subscription or the enterprise subscription, your company gets an individual instance of JuliaHub. So if you're, say, Disney, you're going to get an instance called disney.juliahub.com, and the public data sets in your instance are only available to employees or people that are part of that instance. Now, my last part of the answer is we are building a feature, which I will mention later on, called projects. And with this new projects feature, you're going to be able to have granular access controls around who has access to what within your JuliaHub instance. So this new feature, you'll be able to create a project, encapsulate your resources, like your data sets, in that project, add collaborators to that project, and then only those collaborators are going to have access to those resources. So hopefully that answers the question. All right, I'm going to dive into the IDE. So here we have the Julia IDE. I'm going to go ahead and connect to it. And you're going to see that the Julia IDE experience lives right within VS Code. But of course, we have all the Julia toolboxes, the REPL, everything inside our Julia IDE experience. So on the left-hand side, when you launch this, you're going to see a couple icons specific to the Julia ecosystem. You have the Julia REPL information. So this is all the package server, the package management, and all the core packages for Julia. You have information around Julia Sim, which is one of our bigger scientific and machine learning products. I'm not going to demo Julia Sim in this demo series, but you will have access to parts of Julia Sim in the free tier. And then lastly, you've got an icon for JuliaHub, which, on the left navigation, you're actually going to be able to see what's happening within this instance of JuliaHub. You can actually change your configuration if you want to launch a whole new instance of the Julia IDE. So you can change it from distributed to single process, CPU to GPU, and you can change the number of nodes. And these configuration options are really they're really important when you're running data sets at scale. So if you're doing some extremely high computations, it is beneficial to increase the number of CPUs, change the number of nodes, and that's all available here within this menu. Again, as I mentioned before, you can see all your running jobs. You can even see data sets that have been uploaded to this instance of JuliaHub. Okay. So now I'm in my the Julia IDE, and we have the Julia REPL, basically the command line just loaded up. And just, a very simple demo. What I will do is I will walk us through simple data frames package. So here I've got the Julia data frames package, dataframes.jl. To Basically, to add any package to Julia or JuliaHub, there's two ways. You can click on the right bracket and go into the package server, and you can actually add packages from there. The other way is straight from the main Julia terminal. And there, basically what you do is you tell Julia that you're going to use the PKG package to load up a new package. So using PKG. Then you're going to add the specific, package that you're using. I'm going to see if I can make this a little bit bigger. Okay. So now I'm going to add data frames. Obviously, I've done this many times, so my REPL is just going to tell me that. And then once data frames is added, to use the package, again, you're going to use this syntax using. So I'm going to say using data frames once the package is added and resolves. So I'm going to type in using data frames, and I will just let that run for a second. And so once this is all done, the last step in this particular little data frames demo is I'm going to create a variable called df, and df is going to equal my data frame. I'm going to put in some of the information of that data frame, and you'll see in the REPL that turns into a visual data frame. Oh, I've got a little error. That's fine. We've got a data frame right there, right, with my rows, my columns, and my titles. One last thing I'll show you is in my JuliaHub demo, I already have some data loaded up. I have this CSV file called zoo.csv, and this basically is just a file of zoo data. So using the same data frames package, I'm actually going to show you kind of a more realistic version of my data frame. And there's one additional package I'm going to use for this. So it's the CSV package. So I'm going to type using CSV, comma, data frames. And then I'm going to put in the variable animals. And this is actually going to load up the zoo.csv. And hopefully in about 5 seconds, there you go. You're going to see that CSV data has now loaded into the REPL in a very digestible form. So that's the quick demo of how to use the Julia IDE, load up a Julia package, and get an output. See if I have any questions that came in. No. Okay, well, let's keep going then. All right, the next thing I want to do, so I'm going to close the IDE. Next thing I want to do is actually show you the Pluto experience. So if you're familiar with, Jupyter notebooks, Pluto is a very similar, notebook experience. Pluto runs, the code interactively. So when I launch a Pluto notebook, and I'll show you this, it'll actually load up all the cells and run them in real time. And the other thing you can do when you start up the Pluto notebook is you can change the title. So it'll give you a default title. If you want to change it to say, my demo today, I can then rename it. And it looks like someone's got a question, so I'm going to pause. Okay, answer. Someone wants to know if it's possible to use Julia 1.8 instead of 1.7. I believe so. So if you're on the free tier, I would need to check. I think we are on the latest version of Julia, which it's either 1.8 or 1.9 at this point on the free tier. If you are, on a company instance, you would need your company administrator to request from us that we upgrade you to the latest version. Okay. All right, I'm going to jump back into Pluto. So this is a pretty straightforward demo. I'm just going to show you kind of how this works. I'm going to type in A equals 4, B equals 3, and then I'm going to add in my last little bit, which is my math. So C equals the square root of A squared plus B squared. And when I hit enter, you're going to see it gives me the answer in real time. So C equals 5 because, A 4 squared is 16. B, which is 3 squared is 9, which equals 25. And the square root of 25 is 5. All right. So that is a very quick, easy math example. I'll show you one more thing you can do in Pluto. So by clicking Control Enter, I can create a new cell. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to import a package, the plots package, and load it up and show you that you can calculate a plot in the Pluto notebook. It'll spit out the plot right in this notebook view. So to do that, we're going to type in import pkg. And then I'm going to add the pkg plots package. So that is actually starting to import the package. And then I'm going to say using plots. And finally, I'm going to plot a 100 random, variable of 100. And so when I hit enter, in hopefully less than a minute, you will see that plot output. And as you can see here, when I added the package, it gave me some information about that package being added. And here is the plot that I just got into Pluto. Okay, so that's the basic demo for Pluto. Again, Pluto is an interactive notebook, so you can, especially if you're doing a scientific report, you can add all of your text here, and then you can add the actual math and data and code. It makes it very easy to produce a technical document. All right. No questions? Cool. All right. So we're kind of wrapping up, but I will start showing you, a few other quick things on JuliaHub. Under the Explore area, you've got the packages, you've got a list of all the notebooks that people have uploaded. I am using, the basically the global version of JuliaHub. So I have all the public notebooks that my team has uploaded here. You can actually go into this. So if I click on, Jacob's public notebooks and I click on a specific notebook, it'll actually load the notebook content in an HTML file. And should I want to edit this file, I believe I can just click on it. There is a way to, there is a way to start the interactive session. I may have forgotten how. But basically you have access to all the notebooks here. And other things you have access to is list of all the running jobs, a area with all your data sets, as I showed you, Pluto notebooks, a projects feature. So this projects feature that you're going to see in the free tier is the old version. In the old version of projects, what we did is we allowed you to pull in an existing GitHub repository. So if you wanted to start a project and bring in a GitHub repository so that we, loaded your Git files and folders into JuliaHub, you can do that. The new version of projects, which is coming out in a few weeks, is built natively within JuliaHub. So you can start a project inside JuliaHub and create your folders and have access controls and permissions around any resources that are part of that project. Last is files. This is kind of fun. Like you can just browse through files that your team members have uploaded, of course, if they made them public. And you can actually see the content of the file right in the web UI without having to launch like the IDE or anything like that. Last parts, navigation. I showed you, you can register a package. Again, this comes in from a Get resource. And then under the resources tab, we have our documentation. If you click on support, it opens up a window where you can actually just, type in a message, and this will be emailed to our support team. And last is, once you're logged in, you'll have access to these webinars. So there's tons of amazing content here. I would highly encourage you to check out our webinars. We actually have a webinar coming up on the 27th. Let me just check that. Yep, about the new features of JuliaHub. So if you haven't signed up for that, sign up for the February 27th webinar. Inside JuliaHub, under the webinar section, we do post all past webinars, including some of these demo series that you're here part of today. And then the very last thing I kind of want to show you is the new feature of projects coming out. So again, we're building projects as a way for teams to collaborate on code together. You're going to be able to upload your files and folders and data sets, make sure that only members of your, only people you want access to those resources, only they can access and view those resources. And then you can actually have multiple people edit the code and merge it back to the main branch. So I'll show you a bit of a demo of that right now. So let me reshare my screen. And I want to show you this demo right here.
Okay, let's take a look at the file sharing capabilities of projects. So each user, in these two windows, we have two users. One is the admin, the other is this Greek guy. And as we can see, we have given access to both of these users. One is the owner, one is the main team. As we said before, these users get a local copy and the copy that everyone shares. So users can edit their local copy. They can upload files. I'm going to upload this address data thing. Uploading. It's just here. As we can see, it is in the local copy, but it's not in the upstream published copy. So I can do that. So clicking this button makes the published version of the project be equal to the local one. So our other users can also see the data as published. The local copy is not updated until they click the full upstream button, which after just a few seconds also gets new files on every file.
So just to reiterate, what you're seeing is one user has uploaded a new piece of data, a data set, and that user is then clicking on the publish button, and they're syncing that new data set to the main branch. And this other user on the right, who's working in their own environment, they don't have that data set yet because they're in their own local environment. But when they click on pull upstream, they pull from that main branch, and then they're then synced up in their local workspace with the main workspace. So this kind of workflow makes sure that different people can work on the same projects at the same time, that you aren't overwriting somebody else's files and folders. And that is why we have this publish, and pull mechanism. This is all Git based. So this feature is coming out in probably 3 or 4 weeks. Look out for it. And that's really all I wanted to say about that. I'm going to go finally back to my presentation. Where do I have it? There we go. Sorry, reshare. All right. And that's really it for today's demo. So I don't know if there's any other questions. Again, highly encourage you to ask me anything you'd like. If you don't want to ask me today, my email is sitting right there on the page, but I'll also put it in the webinar chat. I, as the product person, am really here to hear from the community, to hear from all of you. So if you have questions about features, about things you'd like to see in JuliaHub, please reach out to me. I'm very easy to talk to directly. And I guess what I will leave you with today is, go to JuliaHub, create an account, sign up for the free tier, look up some tutorials or webinars, try it out, and anything that doesn't work or doesn't make sense to you, just email me directly and hopefully we'll get it working for you and solve all your problems. So that's it. I don't see any more questions in the Q&A. So I'm going to hand it back to you, Jay.
Okay, thank you, Deep. And thanks to everyone who joined us today. We will be sending a follow-up email, which will have a link to this recording, so you can view this later at your own time. And of course, you can reach out to us if you have any questions. We do have 2 exciting webinars coming up that I will also put in the follow-up email. If you have any questions, reach out to us, and thanks for joining and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.